Hello, everyone out there in radio, TV, and internet land. This is a call to action, and I'm your host, Alex Habersham. And what we try to do on this show is to highlight and emphasize and promote and educate the community about entities, organizations, and programs in our community that are making a difference. And anytime I have the opportunity to tout, expose, program and familiarize the community with an organization that's been around for longer than I have, then I think that that organization must be significant. And it is significant because they want to talk about the Douglas Theater. And that's something we should not take lightly because I have with us Mr. Shelton Land, the newly appointed executive director, I'm sorry, Dr. Shelton Land, the newly appointed executive director of the Douglas Theater. And, it's not up to me because I'm going to see a part of the thunder by saying that the Douglas has been around 101 years. So Dr. Land is going to talk about the Douglas, its function, but he also going to give us a little information about the founder, the millionaire, 100 years ago, black millionaire, who founded this organization. So I'm so happy, proud, and supportive to be able to give Dr. Land the opportunity to familiarize the community with the Douglas's programs and activities, blah, blah, blah. But I need you to do something for me and for Dr. Land. I want you to encourage everybody you know to become more familiar with the Douglas and to support it because it is a stalwart, if you please, in our community. So, ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Shelton Land, the newly appointed executive director of the Douglas Theater. Shelton?
Yeah, what thank you, Mr. Habersham. It's always a pleasure when I can sit back and interact and just listen to you and just to engage. I love it. And again, first of all, let me say on behalf of the board and the staff of the Douglas Theater, thank you for engaging with us today and giving us, a platform and opportunity to share about the Douglas Theater in its history. And you mentioned Charles Henry Douglas. And this is the way that I always go into this. I tell people, I need you just to pause for 1 minute. Think about it. 1921, when racial segregation was so heavy, here's a black man, a millionaire, which is rare. That was like a rare commodity back in those days. Started a theater by us, and for black artists to thrive. So he created this safe and comfortable space for artists such as myself, for those before me, after me, because it's still standing. And so, that's why I say the Douglas and people, when you understand the significance of this cultural and this community treasure and what it stands for, it would just awe you and move you to actually support. And that's, and that's what we think about, again, when we think about the Douglas, the significance of it. It's a sacred place. It's a sacred space. The history itself is, again, like you said, we've been around for 101. We're going into our 102 years. We were able to celebrate a bicentennial. So as the new executive director, this is my fourth week on the job. So I'm still trying to learn what all the light switches and the and some other things are, still trying to wrap my arms around what the board has entrusted me with, and hoping that I bring my purpose-driven vision and work to the theater to continue to, to support and to accelerate and amplify the foundation of Black pride, Black culture, of all of these things that, that the theater was built upon. So that's, those are the foundational and the legacy pieces. But here today, just want to share again about the Douglas. As everyone may know or may not know, we're located right downtown, in the heart of downtown, right off of MLK Boulevard. You can't miss us. We sit right across the street from the Douglas, the Georgia Sports Hall of Fame. as well as the Tubman Museum. So we sit down, but sometimes people drive past us because we're nestled down off of the street, off of the main street. And so I tell people sometimes if you're going too fast, you'll drive right past us. But we are here, been here for 100 years, and look to continue into our beyond for 100 more, which probably be it'll still be living and standing beyond me. So we have a lot of programming that we do for the community, a lot of public programming, from our signature Jazz in the Courtyard, which actually kicks off in May. So we got a lineup that we're working on to bring the public. This is free and open to the public. Bring your lawn chairs, bring your wine, sit out on our courtyard, on our concrete courtyard, where we have jazz artists, and come in and just experience it. Then from our heritage festivals, then we kick off in the summer as well with our summer stage work theater camp. So that's for the youth. And, you know, looking at as we move forward, there's some of the things and pieces that I really want the Douglas to bring to artists, because artists are entrepreneurs. We want to bring things about investing, estate planning. This is how you start a business. This is how you support yourself. We're trying to demystify the myth around starving artists. So we're going to demystify that and change the game up. And when you think about what the Douglas stands for and what it's about. But again, we have a plethora of events, and we always tell people, follow us on social media. It's simple, at the Douglas Theater, and that's Douglas with 2 S's. At the Douglas Theater on all social media platforms to stay up to date with current happenings and events. We also host, we serve as a facility rental space for a lot of partner renters who host their events here. A lot of cultural, artistic pieces, because art is freedom. So we tell people, hey, we stay booked up, but those are a lot of ways that people can get engaged with us. But again, we have our senior cinema every single Wednesday. We have our Making Film Guild series, film series. We have our Black Music Month series that is coming up. So we just want to engage the public in what we do. You know, so, you know, and again, I just thank you. Now, did you have other questions for me? Because, you know, I sit here and I say, now help guide me, help me so I can help myself sometimes. So when we think about it and we do that.
Yeah, I've got a couple of other statements and a couple of other questions.
Okay.
And I think you need to emphasize the fact that it's not just designed to help one segment of the population. It's holistic as it relates to genre, ethnicity, what kind of music you like, what kind of movies you like, how old you are, how young you are, if you're an aspiring artist and what have you. So talk about how the holistic approach, but also, you know, it's talk about some of the artists. You know, it's historical in and of itself when you realize what artists started there and became totally famous. I didn't say infamous, I said famous. So talk about some of those artists and move from there into the holistic approach that you are using in order to engage and educate, attract, and involve the entire community.
Wow. You know, and I'm glad you said that, because I missed a whole piece of that. As the Douglas Theater, you know, we say it started in 1921, but I think what a lot of people don't have forgotten is that in the 1970s, it had to close its door, and the community rallied to save the Douglas. So it reopened its doors in 1997 to the community. But that was a collective community coming together collectively, saying, hey, we have to save this cultural treasure and the significance of it. And so when it reopened its doors in 1997, it kind of revamped its mission. And so it evolved from just a space for Black artists, but it's multicultural events and artists for all artists across all walks of life, from Asian to Hispanic to white to Black. So that's what the Douglas stage represents. We represent a full range of voices from the community, just regional artists, some of the famous folk, as you use that word famous, the most notable folk that got their start right here, like Otis Redding, because it was a launching pad back then. Because remember, Black people didn't have a lot of places to perform. And we think about Little Richard. Then we think about what they call him, the architect of rock and roll. We actually have a film, a documentary of Little Richard that will be coming here and showing here in April. And then you think about James Brown, Godfather of Soul, and so many more artists to follow. We have our Douglas Walk of Fame. We actually have a lot of those artists who have performed here. They're on our Walk of Fame. You can see them right here. You know, when you go all the way back, you think of the Bessie Smiths and the Ma Rainey's. And then we even have some living historians, what I call them, like Newton Collier, who's a local right here. He's a local historian right here who played with the Douglas, played with Sam and Dave, all of the great things that he has done. So the Douglas continues to launch artists, continue to be a platform and a place also for emerging artists, a safe space and a soft place for artists to land. That is what it is. You know, when we think about that in those multicultural pieces, and what we have evolved into, and going to continue that as we continue to look towards our beyond and we grow into the next horizon, move into the next horizon. You know, again, like I tell people, this is just my 4th week on the job in this career assignment, but artist who I am, I've been in theater for a long, long, long time in the arts, because I use arts education. I use it as a tool to connect people, for people to heal, for people to share their stories, for people to tell their narratives. And so that is what the Douglas is. It's when you think about the shows that we host, some of the film series, some of the latest and the most featured films that we have a state-of-the-art theater. It's very intimate. And I tell people, when you think about the Douglas, think like you think about the Apollo. We started 7 years after the Apollo opened. And so that in itself is monumental. You know, when people hear the Apollo, it rings out. So that's the goal of the Douglas. It should ring out because it expands beyond the borders of Macon, Bibb, of Central Georgia. It is a national treasure. We are listed on the National Historic Places, because when you think about what it has done to artists who used to come through Macon, and it used to be an old adage, in order to make it, you had to come through Macon, but the performers performed right here at the Douglas. And so that's what a lot of those artists that we hear of, this is where they started. This is what catapulted them to national levels. You know, look at the Allman Brothers, who had a lot of ties. Clint Brantley, famous promoter who brought a lot of people here. It's just a list, and the list goes on and on and on and on. And I always encourage people, if you Google it, our history pops up. The theater history pops up. I think that, again, the community in itself, you know, as it has embraced the Douglas, because they understand, especially for the locals who have grown up here. This was the place to be, the place to come watch movies, the place to come to the teenage party, where there was a talent show every Saturday. And so we want to get back to some of those and reviving some of those things that made the Douglas what it was as well. And so again, but it's a multicultural, it's for all cultures, all backgrounds. This is just a space for artists to thrive. That is what the Douglas is. And I tell people that we're always the place for a good show that you can count on. That is the Douglas Theater.
Yeah, let me make an observation here. Mm-hmm. You know, I serve as the co-chair of the Bicentennial Commission for Macon Bibb. And as you were talking, it crossed my mind that when we celebrated the centennial in Macon, the Centennial Committee built the City Auditorium. Mm-hmm. Well, now what parallels with that is the committee of one, Mr. Charles Douglas, you know, now, matter of fact, he built the Douglas Theater before the community was 100 years old, because, you know, it went from the centennial was 1823 to 1923. Well, Mr. Douglas established the Douglas in 1921, if I'm correct. Okay. Yep. So that just, you know, bespeaks of how important, you know, the Douglas Theater is. And I was on a tour, you know, a cherry blossom tour the other day, and I don't know how true this is, you know, but we passed the Grand Opera House. And then there were, I don't know whether you've ever noticed it, and we're going to check this out, but it's, whether it's true or not, it's an interesting story to tell, and it probably is.
Mhm.
But they said they built those steps on the side of the Grand, all the way up on the side of the Grand, for Black people to go to the Grand.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. The guy named Rex, he was telling us about all of the history of all of the buildings downtown. But, to move from just, and they said that's part of what motivated Mr. Douglas. It's for African Americans to have their own theater, to go to. Now, I said that to say, every individual in this town has a responsibility to the Douglas Theater. You could send $5 or you could volunteer. So let's talk a little bit about how the community can be more involved in, that phenomenal institution.
And you hit the nail on the head. When Mr. Douglas built this, he did build this because of what you just stated about Black people not having access. So he wanted them to have access to their theater, but it takes support. And so what we have built in now is like memberships. We encourage the community to get a yearly membership, and it's for a nominal fee. It's a nominal cost associated. When you think about seniors, there's anyone 55 and older, that's how we tag ours now. That's how we define it. It's only $30 a year annually. If you just want to be a friend of the Douglas, that's only $40. So, then we have other membership levels, and they come with perks, from discounted entry to Douglas Theater sponsored events, to, depending on what membership level you get, to a free rental or a percentage off of a rental, or to use the space. Because outside of the theater, in conjunction with, we have this beautiful annex space. That's a multi-purpose space. And so and we have a warming kitchen. And so it's a beautiful, intimate facility. And we tell people to stop by. This is how you can encourage. We do tours. People can pop up and say, hey, let me do a tour. We don't charge for our tours. We say, hey, can you leave a little donation? $5, $2. All of those things help us as we try to preserve the history and the culture of the Douglas and the institution itself. And I tell people, because see, Mr. Charles Henry Douglas, who was the founder, the owner, the starter of the Douglas, has his history, but the theater itself has its own history as well. And so when Mr. Charles Henry Douglas starts and ends, the Douglases continues. And so he was the foundation that laid the brick and mortar for this. But when you think about the Douglas, it has now established its own history and what it stands for, continuing to be that place where artists come through. So that artists and that community support, people can either just to volunteer. We never overlook the opportunity for volunteers and contribution of time, effort, space. Then we also ask people, another way you can do it, just be an evangelist for us. Some people say ambassadors, we say evangelists. Help spread the word. Tell people about the Douglas, because the word of mouth is the way that it goes. That's what helps builds and sustains us as well. When people hear about, hey, this is going on at the Douglas. Hey, have you heard about the Douglas? Did you think about the Douglas when you want to run an event or you want to do your event again? We keep it open because it is for the public. We try to make sure that this is the way that we can give back to the public. But again, it does take support and contributions of time, effort. So you can volunteer, you can become a member. But I always tell people the best way to really support us, just become a member. Get the perks. We do an amazing patrons party in December for our patrons. We bring in top shows and talent, regional, local, so people can enjoy. But again, I always say, hey, just become a member. And that way you'll receive our insider newsletter. You'll stay up to date. You'll receive updates on pricing, everything that's happening with the Douglas. Yeah.
Okay, now is there a way, let's tell people how to become a member. Can they do it on the website, or should they call you and you'll send them a membership? Talk a little bit, because I want people to be so motivated and say, I'm going to do it right now. I'm going to go to the internet right now and
all right.
Make my donation. So explain that to them.
Okay, so great. So they have two ways that they can become a member. Actually, three. They can go onto our website, and it's just how I spell Douglas Theater, DOUGLASS Theater, theater with the RE.org. they can go up there /support. When they hit on support, it'll say join our legacy circle, become a legacy circle member. They can do it right there online. Then, you know, all their membership things are mailed to them, or they can stop by the theater. We're located at 355 Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard. We're open Tuesday through Fridays, regular business hours, between the hours of 10 a.m. and 5 p.m. They can stop right by the theater, grab an envelope, fill it out right there. They can call down at the theater, 478-742-2000. We can do it right there and process it over the phone for them. So they have 3 options to just sign up and to access the theater, whether they want to become a member, make a donation, whether they want to submit their name and say, hey, I want to volunteer. Those are the ways to do it. And we will follow up and get right back with you and engage with you, because we want people to be involved, because I always look for people to be thought partners, knowledge partners, community partners, because that is how you continue to sustain. And we want sustaining members. Yep.
And one thing that I think is very, very important to the community is the fact that the Douglas shows movies, you know, and a lot of people haven't been to a movie in a long time. Maybe a lot of people don't want to go to the larger movie and go through the hassle of blah, blah, blah. But then you all got some good movies down there. And then the interesting thing, there's a parking deck right next to the Douglas. You know, oftentimes when you're downtown, you know, you worried about going downtown, but you know, if you just say, well, I need to do something, I need to have some fun, I need an outlet, you know, let me see what's going on the screens at the Douglas Theater. And talk a little bit about the movies, because you know, too often a lot of people say there's nothing to do in Macon, but there are so many things to do in Macon. And one of the things that you can do is go to the Douglas Theater and watch a good movie. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, they can always, like I said, we screen current, oldie but goodies. You know, it just depends on what the month is, what the theme is. But we screen movies like it could have been a current happening, like the Wakanda Forever. You know, once it comes out, we will replay it here for people to come out. And most of the time, you know what, Alex, I'm glad you said that, they're free. We do the screenings for free. We just let people come in. We have everything that the movie theater offer. We got your popcorn. The only thing we don't have is the hot dogs. But we got your popcorn and your sodas and your Coca-Cola. You come get a cold Coke and your popcorn. Yeah. Only thing we don't have is the hot dogs. Right. But and then we got the parking deck, like you said, right next to us. We work with them to work out. So once you come to theater, it's no cost to park in the parking deck. We just, you know, we're a 300-seat theater where you come in and you just want an intimate space. And you want to come in and just, like you said, not deal with all of the hustle and bustle. We have a 3D screen, state-of-the-art screen, the same screen that you go to a Regal or AMC. We have the same screen. That's the quality of it. We have the same machine, the same equipment. And I think that's what people don't realize, that although we're a theater, we are kind of like a transitional theater. So what we can do, the live performances, we also are set up where we can do the screenings of actual movies and films as well. And so again, they range from current, up-to-date movies that are either in the movies, at the movies, or just coming out of the movies, or oldie but goodies. Because we always know that people sometimes like an oldie but goodie.
Yeah. And then there's one thing that's often overlooked is that, you know, it's an excellent venue for activities and programs. You know, we had the pleasure, and I want to publicly thank you for hosting the Central Georgia Coalition of Black Businesses over in the Annex. You know, so organizations and entities need to know that if you want to do an event, a show, a program, a seminar, a reception, you know, the Douglas would be an excellent venue for that. And I think oftentimes that is overlooked. You got 1 minute for your parting statement. Although this is not a trial, you know what I'm saying?
I ain't know if I was,
but you do need, hey, Dr. Land, you do need to do a closing argument, because we need to convince the jury, which is the consuming public, that everybody needs to be a part of the Douglas, and we need to vote the Douglas innocent and just go down there and have an innocent party.
And I'm with you. I am with you all the way. But you know what? As the new executive director, I want people to really be on the lookout for. I am going to have a listening session. I'm going on a listening tour. I want to hear from how they want to partner with us and what they want to see come to the Douglas, because we want to continue to be that place for good shows. And that will be coming up in April, to just invite the community in. Going to have a community forum just so I can hear and get a better sense. And we are always open for ideas. So when you think about the Douglas, think about that. Yeah,
Dr. Land,
mm-hmm.
I need to get this in.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody knows, and if you don't know, you should know. We are about, because of some efforts, to lose our history. Mm-hmm. We are about to be in a position where our young people and many of the old folks don't know our history. Mm-hmm. So entities like the Douglas become extremely important. Mm-hmm. So that's another role that the Douglas can play, is continuing the historical legacy of the Douglas Theater and of our history, which is very important.
Absolutely. And that's our closing argument. You said it for us. That's it.
This is a call to action. I'm your host, Alex Habersham, having interviewed Dr. Shelton Land, the newly appointed and very enthusiastic executive director of the Douglas Theater. It takes a village, and you are a part of the village, and we need to conserve, promote, and utilize the Douglas. Thank you so much, Dr. Land. And don't forget, you're either a part of the problem, but are a part of the solution. Be a part of the solution, and have a great day.
www.makingblackpages.com. Think Black Pages first. You better think
Black Pages.
When purchasing goods like beauty supplies, cell phones, clothing, and food, think Black Pages first. For services like cleaning, event planning, and healthcare, search, shop, support.
The Macon, Middle Georgia Black Pages.
Community for attorneys, auto, barbers, books, catering, churches, DJs, insurance, venues, and more.
Over 1,600 African-American businesses listed.
Serving Baldwin, Bibb, Crawford, Houston, Jones, Monroe, Peach, Twiggs, and Wilkinson counties. When you spend money in your community, you are supporting the advancement of your community.
Our motto is,
have you hugged a black business today? Well, here's your chance with the new 2022-2023 edition
of the Macon, Middle Georgia Black Pages.
So think Black Pages first. Available in hard copy and
digital.
Get your copy today. Think Black Pages first.